Welcome to the Pennywise Financial Podcast. Constantine here at Monarch Wealth Management. Today I have Dave Georgian.
Wow.
Who is Georgian?
I've only known you since we were 15.
Is my
That's
co-host
great.
today. Dave, why don't you introduce our guest?
Yes. So today we have the founder and owner of Partyman Catering, Mr. Joseph Yantachka, the third. The third. Welcome, Joe.
Got the name right.
Yes. I'm so glad, by the way, he has a son, obviously the fourth.
The fourth.
Yes.
Yep.
So it's a family name, I guess.
It is. Once you hit the third, I haven't heard too many fourths, so I ran with it.
Yeah. You think you'll go with the fifth?
I could see him doing it.
Yeah.
He seems like a pretty sentimental kind of kid.
Yeah.
Well, you never know.
You guys are like royalty.
Yeah.
You need a crown.
Well, yeah.
The top hat.
King Joey the Fourth.
Yes.
Gold top hat. I may have one of those.
Yes. Welcome, Joe. Welcome to the podcast. Real quick introduction, if I may. So many moons ago, in between my college breaks at the University of Buffalo, I'd come back to Livonia, New York, where Joe started this catering company. What year was it, Joe? Officially or unofficially?
I rounded 2000.
2000. Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Puts me at about 20 years old.
Yep.
And Joe at his house in Livonia, he had a separate kitchen next door where he started this catering company. And I would help out as much as I could in the summertime, spilling boiling water on my steel toe boots. Still remember a couple stories through them. Yep. There was some screaming. And this college kid who just had a zeal for catering and culinary, amazing food for so many years, my friend. Catered my wedding. I don't know if you remember that, Cons.
Of course I remember that.
During your
kidding me?
45-minute best man speech.
Hey, don't worry about that.
But just time and time again, man, like to see you come from literally the kitchen next to your house to everything you've grown into is just tremendous.
Did you cook as a kid?
Apparently it was my way of getting out of going to school. My mom would say, you always wanted to stay home and make cookies or bake or cook or something. And that was my, I guess if I went that route, she'd let me stay home once in a while. So maybe that's what got me started. I enjoyed it though, as a kid.
You did it often?
From what I remember.
Yeah.
Not too much, but occasionally I would say it was I was cooking at the time, kind of fell into it. And that was, you got to do something for college. And that's what kind of, I knew food and I like to eat it. And I cooked.
I'm really good at eating food.
I'm great at that. So what puts me closest to food is cooking it. So
yeah. And you went to Alfred, Joe?
Alfred State.
Okay.
Got a culinary degree from there and commuted on weekends. Stayed there, but commuted on weekends. Doing the food stand at the flea market.
In Avon?
In Avon. Yep. That in high school actually.
Wow.
That's how you started?
So I was cooking at a diner and actually washing dishes at 14, started cooking right around that same year and 15 maybe. And shortly thereafter, a family friend who ran this concession stand wanted to get out of it. They got older and I had saved up a few bucks, bought everything off them and kind of got this going because I was cooking anyway.
Wow.
So I would run that on weekends.
In high school?
In high school. From
That's pretty impressive.
16.
You want to talk about a young entrepreneur?
Wow. Yeah, I was 16.
Like, forget about just like working at that age. Like you were running the show.
Yeah, it was right around 16 to 20. I sold it back off just as the way I obtained it. Around 20 when I started Partyman Catering, It started clogging up the weekends, and I needed something more than that. So,
wow,
yeah, that's really how
pretty
it got
cool.
started.
Wow, where were you washing dishes back in the day?
It was Burdick's Cafe in Lakeville.
Okay,
It turned into a Kitty's Cafe, and that's when I started cooking. And
Kitty's Cafe, where they have like cats and stuff there, or just Kitty, the name?
There was no cats there.
No cats.
No cats were harmed in the filming of this.
Kitty had 30 or 40 cats.
Serious?
Her name was Kitty. And
Oh,
she had
legit.
cats.
She legit had cats.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Kitty.
Awesome. I mean, she cooked her butt off. She was.
You did a stint at Peppermints too for a while, right?
Yep.
Cooking?
So,
Not serving, cooking, right?
cooking.
Okay.
I was actually just in there, and I was talking to somebody. I served a couple shifts, and it was fun. But I've been there, done that.
Yeah.
Did not serve
Yeah.
twice.
Yeah.
But twice.
Good call. Good
Yeah.
call. Because Cons was a server.
Yeah.
Yep.
I always like the
Server,
back end of the
bartender.
kitchen.
Yeah. Back
Which
of
is funny
houses.
though, if you think about it. Our personalities are so opposite. I prefer to be in the back and do the and in the restaurant. This guy likes being in the kitchen.
Yeah. Because you could just wear a hat,
Eat food.
eat. Yeah, you were closer to the food.
Closer
That's
to the
true.
food.
Yeah, correct. French fries fell.
The food was the
onto
hook.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. So we were just talking, Joe, and we wanted to save this for the podcast. We were talking about your elevator pitch.
Yeah.
So let's hear it. You hired a marketing firm to come up with this elevator pitch.
You just heard it. I don't have one. No, we internally, it was it was just it's not something that we even have developed. And and I grew this business. I always said that if you like what we have and you want to buy it, great. If not, I'm not going to try convincing you
Mhm.
into that it's what you need. And so that's really the foundation. Maybe that's the pitch. But I was never a salesy person up until I would say the last 3 or 4 years. I think you hit a period of growth where you need something more than just the organic sale.
Yeah.
And so the need for that, and I would say we're kind of going through the point that you bring up, Dave, and that we were talking about is that like a bit of a rebranding and a realignment. Partyman Catering, we've become a company that's not the party guy out of college 23 years ago starting a business.
Yeah.
We do some of the best events in Rochester and some really high end stuff, and I think offer a product that's well above what just a caterer would do. And so, our tagline is elevating your experience. And I think it was funny. I was thinking about a realignment and just the direction we're going to go in the product we offer. And I feel like it's, we're this catering company, but we're not that. There's catering companies all over Rochester. And I think we're an experience company. And so, we kind of talk about at some point just what we have to offer. And I think it's an experience. It's not just the food.
Yeah, I'd
I'm the
agree
food
with you
guy.
totally.
I love the food and I like being close to the food. But if you're just hiring us for good food, there's a bunch of people that can give you good food. And there's some really great places around here that may even have better food. But you won't get an experience like you're going to get from Partyman in an event. And so
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that
That's it, Joe. The experience. You're
Right.
spot on. And I'm thinking about what year did you have maybe it was like your 13th year, 15th year. You had a big shindig down on Canisius Lake.
Yeah.
And I just remember, so Cons, we pull into the parking lot and there's a little, like a mini hut thing, right? In the parking lot, and it's in the winter. And there's a lady there that works for Joe, and she's handing out hot cocoa for your travel from the parking lot to the venue.
So I assume this was held in the fall or winter.
No, it was like winter. It's like early
Okay.
winter, maybe. And I just, I'm like, how thoughtful, like the small
Right.
touches like that, Joe. If I had to say what sets you apart, the food, of course. But those little touches that create that experience. And I remember walking in and there was like a shelf that had all these different like crazy drinks, like alcoholic and non-alcoholic, but they had like umbrellas in them and they were all these unique
Fancy.
drinks. Yeah.
Yep.
It was just so cool. Like, the experience absolutely sums it up.
A lot of I think it's, how do they say it, at the end of the day you won't remember what they said or what you did, but how it made you feel.
Mhm.
And I think that's kind of a testament to what you can get food from anywhere delivered to your event catering, but what's important to you on your event day and what do you want to remember and what's important to you that day. I think that dictates kind of maybe who you're choosing. And we're not that person that's just gonna slap the food on the table and hit the road. While we do some simple drop off and some smaller catering, even that needs to have a certain level of experience that's a bit different from the start to finish, the sale right to the the finish of the event. So
Yeah.
that's something that I think we're focusing on, which will, full circle here, dictate that elevator speech, because we make really great food and our service is awesome. That doesn't encompass um, creating an experience that's
Everything you
different.
do.
So
Yeah.
the elevator speech, while it may never have been present and defined, I think we're right at a point where it needs to be maybe the mindset adjusted a little bit, because we're not just a catering company.
It sounds like you're looking at the business from a different lens.
Yeah,
And you
exactly.
remind us that you're running this experiential type of thing where people come in and get a great experience that's memorable and
Yep.
lasting. But you're also a small business owner, right, in the local community, which I think is important. And we have a lot of business owners that work with us, whether it be for offering retirement plans or investments of their own. But I'd love to hear a little bit about you as a local business owner from that lens, that perspective. If you could maybe talk about, I mean, obviously the last couple of years in the economy and the market's been
Sure.
challenging. I know even our shopping habits for food and groceries. We were diehard, BJ's and Wegmans.
Mhm.
Where now my wife is shopping at Aldi's. Like, I actually can't believe that I'm saying that we're shopping at Aldi's, but she's been able to find good products that are organic and things like that for like a fraction of what we would pay at Wegmans.
Right.
So
Yep.
has that changed the way that people are spending money and the type of experiences that they're booking with you?
Yeah, I would say that that very same principle that you're talking about applies to the events industry, and our primary focus is weddings. We've done some kosher 500-person corporate plated events, and we've done simple stuff, but weddings really are our specialty. Um, and I think that whether it be that Aldi's kind of comparison on prices and what you're getting, it's the same. It's like, what am I willing to sacrifice for the dollars I'm spending? And if the quality's almost there and almost unnoticeable, they're probably going to go with the cheaper option, the Aldi option versus the Wegman option. And so I think that people are just conscious now more than they have been, especially I would say in 22 in particular with COVID. And I think there was a lot of money floating around for different reasons. And there was this demand that people were willing to pay whatever, because I couldn't have my event last year and I have some money and it doesn't matter. I'll take the Wegmans food, or the higher end stuff, or not be so worried about what I'm spending. So I think in the environment that we have here, people are just more conscious about that for sure. And making sure they're choosing things that, they're shopping around, I would say, right? And they're just making sure that they're getting exactly what they need. And if it's only a small sacrifice, they're fine it's sacrificing maybe some experience or quality of something. So in a market that was in that 21 and 22, very much has changed in that perspective. And I think we're seeing that over the next 6 months too. The events that are kind of booking out, I expect that to kind of be the case. So
Yeah.
it's just giving them good bang for the buck is what it's at now, where previously it wasn't such a focus.
If I'm honest, I don't even think that, I mean, at least me personally, are sacrificing the quality of food. Like, I actually like some of the stuff better. The portion size is a little smaller, but my family does not eat leftovers anyway. It's usually me that eats all the leftovers.
Yep.
So I was happy to say, like, surprisingly happy to say I enjoy the food from Aldi's.
I'm a We don't shop there. I let the wife handle most of the grocery
Me
shopping.
too.
Um,
It's safer that way.
right, right. Um, but is it Dollar General or Aldi's where you get quarter for the shopping cart?
I think it's Aldi's.
That's all these. That's all these.
And so the Wegmans experience is you don't have to pay for the cart, and it's there and it's ready, and there's wipes and you can wipe it down. Maybe that's everywhere now, but um, you are okay with paying a quarter for the shopping cart and having to return it or whatever it was, where Wegmans, it's a little different experience. And so willing to sacrifice that piece maybe. And I don't know the other pieces. Like I said, I'm an Instacart guy because I hate shopping.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to pay that extra money so that I don't
Convenience.
have to experience Wegmans on Sunday
Yep.
or Aldi's on Sunday.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just kind of what's important to the buyer. And we're seeing that cost effectiveness. And if it's a close second, second's okay. Um,
Let me ask
yeah,
you this, Joe, to that point. When you see the cost of everything going up, have you had to adjust your prices, like your catering prices, significantly over the last 2 years, like post COVID, because of the hike
yeah,
and everything?
yeah. Labor in particular, like I said, food is food. We do a lot of volume, and we get um, a break as much as any restaurant would, or
Mhm.
other food service establishment in the area. Um, but it's the investment into the employees and the wage you pay and all the things that go into retention culture and all this new stuff that are just the benefits.
Oh yeah.
Something that we've worked with you guys on, which has been awesome. Offering what was an IRA to now a 401k for essentially the entire company. And so, coupled with wages and these food price increases, like we've spiked quite a bit. And I don't think the market for what people are willing to pay, they don't understand it, and it hasn't caught up.
Hmm.
So it's like, geez, man, it was your prices went up a whole lot. Well, so many different variables, and COVID was one of those big things. That how do you entice them and get them to be okay with not working from home, and create an environment that seasonality is a big challenge for us. So investing in the employees that keeps them coming back.
Hmm.
So
You actually touched on something I was going to kind of ask you, but you've already answered it. Is how do you compete for that top level employee in this kind of environment where people care about their paycheck, being able to pay for food and put food on the table, and but then it's healthcare and it's saving for retirement down the road. Um, I think people are more conscious and more aware of that and understanding the benefits. It's like,
yeah,
yeah, it's not just my hourly wage. I got to be saving for tomorrow because if I don't, there's no pension, there's nothing there. The government is not going to help me.
right.
So I think you've already taken care of a lot of those things.
Yeah, and it's got to be tough for employees to, there may be that other job that pays more, but are you happy at work?
Yeah, culture.
And um, so it's, and we've seen that. We've had people come to us for maybe less pay. As an employee, they cost us probably more um, than the other company is paying them because of the invest. We actually just sent. They came back today. We sent 5 people out to Denver for a heart leadership conference. That is, and we have a culture club, and we meet once a month actually for all these culture based initiatives, and just things to make sure that culture's present there, and that's expensive. Um, we could probably add a couple bucks an hour to everybody's paycheck if we didn't do those things, but they're not staying for the money. And we offer a very competitive wage,
Hmm.
maybe even more than others. But if you don't have that culture piece and they're not happy at work, and all the things that kind of come with that, you're fighting a losing battle.
Yeah.
And we did that for a lot of years. Just didn't make that a priority. And now, um, post COVID and during COVID, it's heavier presence now more than ever.
Yeah.
Can't get away with it. Like, you're just not even competitive in the market if you don't have some benefits and you're trying to hire a full-time salaried professional type of person. If you don't have retirement and health insurance and some of the feel good type of things in these programs, I think we already, even though we do that, we struggle sometimes with attracting people.
Yeah.
Wages, I think, is competitive wages is a thing that's changed a lot too, though.
Yeah. We talk about it a lot in our podcast with entrepreneurs, is just the lackluster effort of people wanting to work today. Just seems so hard. And especially I'd have to assume, correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but like uh in your world, the people are probably on the younger side, right? Like the catering.
Yeah. A lot of times, it's just that event staff, that seasonality piece of it,
Hmm.
where part of our mission over the next couple of years getting into venue ownership, to create stability and kind of fight that year round, or having year round staff and more full time employment so that that turnover isn't there. But and I think that'll help with the age range. You can hire more professional people. But I'll tell you, the awesome part is that these 15, 16-year-old kids are the ones that want to work. It's you'll
Really?
get a few that, hey, my mom made me, my parents made me get a job, and they weed themselves out. But these are the kids that are driven. And we have some really, really great young people. And I would say that we're seeing some of the benefit from that now, because they were 14 and 15 years old when COVID hit,
Mhm.
and they weren't getting the checks, and they wanted to make some money, and they were home, and they came in and they were driven, and now they're starting to turn 17, 18, 19 years old. And they're still at our company, and some of them are taking new full-time jobs. And as we grow, they're kind of fitting into that, and they've already proven their worth, and we've seen what they do. So we're starting to see some of that return on investment of those young kids. They couldn't drive, and you had to send them home at 8:30 or 9, but
Yeah.
now it's a different story.
That's
So
promising. I feel like
Wow.
there's a gap between like the 20 to 25, maybe even a little older than that. That just don't want to work. They feel
Yeah.
kind of entitled. I don't know what the hell
They're like
happened during that time
pansies, man.
frame.
Want to
But like
smack
now
that
you're telling
generation.
me the younger kids want to work.
the ones that we have do, don't get me wrong, they're all 15, 16, and
Sure.
Yeah.
Of course.
but generally speaking, these kids show up and they kill it, man. They
That's
work
actually
hard.
like so
I love
uplifting to
that.
hear. Yeah.
Yep. It's You create this culture. I'll use the word a bunch, I'm sure, but you stand out if you're lazy, and it's almost awkward if you're going to go hide in the corner and try to get out of something, or like you're going to get called out or something. Like it's almost uncomfortable
Mhm.
to do that, and so they're in there. And so I think, I say these kids are great, but I think we've created this culture that just doesn't allow for
Expectations.
otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
And it's not forced, it's just what we do. And they're driven for all the great things that they see happening within the company.
Yeah, but that's what makes your company successful, right? Is having
Absolutely.
that kind of culture.
Yep.
Yeah.
You have to invest into that piece.
Yeah.
So you mentioned weddings. Weddings are your like number one.
Weddings
Right.
are it.
I got a question. I guess maybe for both you guys. Do you notice any changes in the ages of people getting married or people waiting longer? I don't even know if it was like popular or common to get married anymore. I feel like it's less and less important for people. People are living together for like 10, 15 years and then saying, "Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I guess we'll get married." But not everyone. Has that
Yeah.
affected business in any way or
Um,
don't want to say?
I don't know if I can say, but to answer your question, I do think if I somehow could, document the age, that I would say it's gotten older. Um, Common now to see
Mid-30s.
well, even, like I was married at 30, and I was dragging feet. It was just one of those things. And after I met my wife, it was all good, and we got married within a year, but I was in no hurry to get married. And I think I was a bit of an anomaly there, in that when in your 20s, in your young 20s, mid 20s, and now it's not common to first marriage in the late 20s and early 30s. 30,
Mhm.
I would say, if I had to guess. So maybe a good thing for us, in that maybe you've established a job and you're not still in college. We still see the gamut, the spread of
Mhm.
of ages, but you're from a dollar spent, there might be more ability
Oh yeah,
the
because
further
you're
you get down
established.
the
Yeah,
road.
Ability,
absolutely.
maturity, you're at a
Typically
different
two
point in your life.
Yeah.
two incomes too. Typically today,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How old were you when you got married?
28. 20.
28.
I'm lying.
You're
No,
lying.
28. 28.
Your wife's not listening, so it's
Two-
okay.
in May, it's gonna be 15 years. So yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Time
I was
flies.
32.
Were you?
Yeah.
29.
I had my first kid at 30.
So maybe I'm off on that.
Your wedding was cool, Joe.
because
New Year's Eve, right?
New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
That is a cool anniversary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you guys do a dance? Was there a
don't know
dance?
what you're talking
Like
about.
your Yeah, there was a dance. There
Dance.
was a
I don't know what
dance.
you're talking about.
Do you remember when and I think that's still popular, where like the wedding party does like a dance? It's
Oh,
like
yeah, the whole
choreographed.
yeah, we did it. So my wife and I did a dance. It was terrible. And it's not my wife's
I don't
fault.
remember
Like,
your dance.
yeah, it was
Okay.
not memorable apparently.
No, my bad.
But we didn't do one for the group. It was us. We had a Russian dance instructor that hated my wife. My wife was convinced that she hated her. And every time we go to practice, she'd yell at her and she'd say,
This is in
"Follow-"
Rochester.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
Rochester. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, ages. I just don't know if it's changing. I mean, that might affect your business, right? If people are not getting married as often and weddings are your number one. But
Yeah.
you're saying no.
There's as we kind of dig into this rebranding and heavy into the marketing thing, understanding the market and what's out there,
Yeah.
it is a big thing. And so I don't know if I can't say offhand if wedding numbers in terms of the number of people getting married. I want to say last I looked a year or two ago, they weren't declining, but also census data, I think, is what I was looking at. And that's,
Mhm.
you're dated on that, could be 5 years old,
Sure.
so what's really trending now and happening.
You check in on those trends, Joe?
Okay, not as much as I'd like to.
Sure. But even you saying that, like, I don't know. I'm used to Joe. Like, I've known Joe most of my life now. So like, I still see like
Hard for you to look
the-
at Joe and see business Joe.
correct. It's like,
Yeah.
I still like, I'm
Assuming.
assuming there's a keg in the truck, but like that was 25
There
years
might
ago.
be for the next party.
I am still the party man.
But now you're more like the sophisticated party man.
Well,
like,
yeah, right.
and as you talk about this rebranding and this upper scale kind of party man.
Sure.
Yep.
Yep.
It makes sense too. And just the way that you've evolved. I'm talking about the
Yeah.
company as a whole.
Yeah. The willingness to just let things be okay from a quality standpoint or something. It's like we're fixing it and making it better, and putting processes in place. And no company's perfect, and we're far from that. But reacting to the things that are less than perfect, we're on it, and that's not cheap because it takes time and money and labor and processes and
Yeah.
new technology and tools and resources. And so, to be a company that is priced most competitively, I think you have to be real slim on margins in some of those places and be okay with slightly less than perfect. And it's just real hard for us to do as a company. So I think our positioning in that, we are and will always continue to be probably the best at what we do, or in the top echelon of what that is. And so, aligning the rest of it, the brand and in the sales pitch and the elevator speech and
Mhm.
how you dress and what your staff looks like and everything else, just needs to be in line. So, and I think we're over the last 5 years, it's really shown through that, it takes some real intention to sell a higher price, because you get good reviews and the food tastes good, but how do you sell an experience that's a feeling?
Mhm.
And it takes a kind of a different mindset and definitely a different sales pitch. If you're just competing against good food, there's lots of great food
Yeah.
out there, and
Yeah.
lots of people can produce that. But yeah,
We have
It's
the
a
same
challenge.
challenge. It's selling us. I guess I say selling a story. It's telling a story and
Yeah.
connecting with somebody and making them understand what that experience might feel like for them,
right.
and then making a decision. I'm sure people don't talk to you after 5 minutes and say, you know what, I want to book him. Or same with Dave. I mean, you strike up a conversation, maybe it sparks interest. You check things out, and then you make a decision.
Right.
Wedding is a pretty big expense.
I've come in, of course, through business and some of the travel I've done and the conferences and the run-ins with salespeople. I've bought things, and when you're in front of a good salesperson, it's the right balance of the feel and what's being said, but also that trust. And so, yeah, it's tough when you're just trying to sell food. There's a whole bunch of other people out there doing that, and so how are you going to be different? And,
Yeah.
and it is that feel. So it's something that's it's not an easy thing to do
Yeah.
by any means.
With it, I think this is a very good place to take a break. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back with the show. Do you want help building and managing an investment portfolio that's right for you? One that will help you maximize growth potential while you're saving, help you generate income when you need it most, and eventually preserve what you've saved to leave to your beneficiaries? We do this day in and day out and take the stress and responsibility of making those decisions off your plate. Subscribe to our newsletter, read our blog post, and listen to our podcast to get a flavor of how we do things. Our firm is unique and capable of handling all your investment and insurance needs. Monarch Wealth Management, our guidance, your future. Welcome back to the Pennywise Financial Podcast. Constantine here, Monarch Wealth Management. My co-host today, Dave Georgiev, and our guest, Joe Yantachka from Partyman Catering. Welcome back, everyone. We learned a little bit about Joe and his early cooking in his pre-college days. And now I want to talk a little bit more about the investment piece, on what you're doing, not from a stock and bond point of view, but more into the company as a small
Sure.
business owner. So you touched on some of the things you're doing for employees and how to attract and retain top talent. What are some things that you're investing in on the business side to either grow or enhance the experience for customers?
Yeah. Um, Internal on the business stuff, especially, is we kind of talked about the growth that I've had. And we have some really great people um, who have worked for us for a number of years who are now, I would, a good fair amount, I would say, that are 10 plus years with us,
Hmm.
and in their young 30s. So starting young and don't have as much experience um, being out there, similar to me, which I can relate to them in that just other, whether it be other industry or other businesses similar to mine with experiences. So I would say uh, our whole leadership team, I don't think there's, I'm getting older, anyone over 50, which I say life experience and work experience is huge value.
Hmm.
And so one of the things we've invested in, I may have mentioned it to you, Dave, EOS system.
Hmm.
We
What
put
does
a,
EOS stand for? I have no idea what that is.
yeah, entrepreneurial operating system. And it's really kind of hard to explain, but it's like a set of guiding principles for your business to how to have your meetings, reviews, structure, kind of building out your accountability chart or org chart, as some would call it. um, because we've had this really great growth, but we were at a place where, like, some of the simplest things with holding each other accountable and having a real good organization chart that was who's managing who and what's everyone doing in the clear lines, and having really effective meetings. We just came off our annual 2-day offsite with our leadership team. We defined goals. We have 1, 3, and 10-year goals.
Where do you have that? Where do you host it? Different places, different venues?
Yeah, actually, it's we were at Oaks Manor, really great place out in Churchville, and
Don't know it.
Me neither.
yeah, yeah, right over what's that camper? Not Myers, maybe
Oh, over
Thor's.
near there,
It's right
near
in front of,
490.
yeah, right off 490.
Okay.
Spent the weekend there, or not the weekend, but a couple days. And so we've invested in these tools that are setting us up for the future, and giving tools to this team to grow and just be more efficient. And
Mhm.
we would have, and I'm the worst at it. And I could say that meetings, it's like you're exhausted. It's 2 hours later, and what the heck did you accomplish? Um, and in this cuts right through all that. We sit down once a week for an hour and a half, and we get stuff done in this system. And there's many of them out there like that that'll do this for you. But that has been a game changer for us. We invested in um, not integrator, so implementer, um, and that was $75,000 for two
Wow.
years.
Was that
Wow.
software or is that like a training program?
So it was I guess you could almost call him like a facilitator of this program to make sure it works. And so you get this guy for 2 years. I wouldn't say at your disposal, but he's at all the quarterly meetings helping you facilitate these things and implement these best practices. Yeah, that's probably the best way to describe it, is best practices. And I looked at him as a $35,000 a year employee that I'm paying for 2 years. And
Hmm.
that was a big spend. Like we've never spent anything like that on a consultant or something you would kind of group into
Yeah.
that class. And but it was a no brainer, and I'd do it again tomorrow. It was
Really?
worth it. So that big investment for a small company,
Absolutely.
So
but game
that's
changer for us.
so that's helping your executive team or your um, maybe run meetings more efficiently, more effective
Yep.
communication between the staff, and maybe that conveys to the end client. I
Oh,
assume.
absolutely, absolutely. It's we would have these improvements that we'd identify, like, yeah, something went wrong or we could do this better, and it would take a long time to just kind of go from start to finish and get implemented within the company or make a change as you grow. And this has helped that type of thing, that which improves your end product. um, tremendous. Like I was shocked at how many employees just wanted to know, like especially the full time ones, like
Mhm.
where are we going to be in 5 years? Like what's the plan here? And so it shakes out your vision and says, here's what we're going to do in 10 years. And every year you're reevaluating, saying, are we doing the things that's going to get us there one,
Yeah.
3, and 10 years? And so it's kind of empowered them. One of the big things is they call it letting go of the vine. But when an employee has a very clear job description and they know what they're supposed to do, and there's actually a tool, they call it GWC. Do they get it? Do they get it? Do they get the position? Do they
Mhm.
want it? And do they have the capacity to do it? And so it kind of shakes that out. You have the right people in place to hit these goals that you've defined, um, and you trust them to do their job because they're capable of it,
Yeah.
basically. And so it's kind of like, go do your thing and let me not hold you back from making good things happen within this company,
Mhm.
which is, I would say, the mantra for what have we invested in is just long term and sustainability and culture based things, which this, while it's a operating system for a business or a set of principles, guiding principles, it's done a lot for people because less micromanaging, more effective meetings that people don't dread going into. You have the right people in the right seat versus people that are just struggling and you're getting by. You kind of deal with that head on. So I think
Mhm.
just setting our business up and working on the business has been the big investment for us.
First of all, man, I gotta commend you for because I do feel like I'm meeting with Joe the businessman.
Yeah,
And hearing that
love it.
side of things, the number one question I get for people that retire and want to go back and open a business is I want to open a restaurant. Now you don't own a restaurant,
Nope.
but I'm like run far, far away. And usually what we end up seeing happen, and we both came from the background of restaurants,
Mhm.
is
Yeah,
everybody's working at the restaurant. Nobody's working on the business.
right.
The owner's in the kitchen, the owner's doing the dishes, the owner's out greeting, the owner's doing something that could be mundane or a task or a chore and could be assigned easily to an employee. There's no reason the
Right.
head of the company should be doing those things.
Exactly.
I'm not saying they're above it, but if nobody's focusing on the dynamic, the goals,
The
one,
big
Right.
three,
picture.
5, 10, big
Yep.
picture,
Yep.
On
no one's focusing on that.
and it can only be one person thinking like that. And that's what, as an owner, you're putting out fires and you're always going to have to work in the business some.
Mhm.
But if you are in a position that you want to grow your business, someone's got to work on it. And where we're at, we have what there's probably 100 employees, 125, maybe half of which are
Seasonal.
well,
Oh.
taking advantage of retirement
Uh-huh.
plan through you
Yep.
guys.
Yep.
Um, and so we have a lot of people and there's a lot to do. And so this mentality of just this one person, granted on the scale, but it was even leadership level team didn't understand that they too need to think about on the business rather than just doing that thing, document that process so it happens consistently the next 10 times
Mhm.
on the business versus in. And so you need more people doing that the larger you get. And that's what we're investing in. It just has to happen because
Mhm.
I can't work on everything event staff.
Yeah.
You need those other people. And we've set aside intentional time for you need to think differently, employee who was a chef at one time, right?
Yep.
Or a marketing girl who loved that. I was a chef, but you need to think on the business versus in just flipping the burger or whatever it is. You need more people doing that. And so longevity is the big thing I would say
Yeah.
we're investing
Yeah.
in.
You've got some core employees, like you said, that've been with you. I think is it JT,
Yep.
and a couple other
Yeah.
folks that have just been almost like the the foundation of this place. Like when they were substantially smaller, a lot less revenue, you had these core people and they blossomed with you, honestly.
Yeah.
And you did a great job, Joe, of like nurturing that
Yeah.
environment.
Providing the opportunity for them to we still need really great chefs. And JT, who's my director of operations now, it's funny, we joke, um, you don't have anything to do. The only thing you have to do is make sure everyone else is doing what they're doing.
Yep.
um, and we kind of had that epiphany moment for a minute. And but it's true, it's just you have to kind of let go of some of these things and let these other people kind of think and work on the business. And and think at a different level. And it's been good. When you empower people and you kind of let them shine a little bit, we've seen good results from
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not to get off the beaten path, but you talked about restaurants, and I'm not
I mentioned food. This guy
I'm
likes
not
up.
letting this thing die. So theoretically, guys, I'm asking you, if you opened a restaurant and you had a manager, so you're not, like you said, Cons, you're not in the kitchen, you're not running around doing dishes, putting things away. If you had a competent manager, do you think you could run a successful restaurant in today's environment?
Could or
Yeah.
would, or do you want?
Want is different. You think it's doable, or like, and I understand, oh yeah, anything's doable, but like, do you think reasonably you could be profitable to the ability that makes it worthwhile?
I think for me, it would have to be um, maybe the next step up from a manager.
Like you'd have to have somebody.
Like managing people in the dining room and the schedule and profitability. And, so like to what degree of the manager?
Sure.
I would say yes, if you had a good kind of high level person that was not going to just hop back in there and cook when the chef doesn't show up.
Yeah.
Figure out how to not put yourself in a position so that you have to cook when the chef doesn't show up. Have
Yeah.
someone on call.
Yep.
And now you're free to do those things that will help run that business success.
So theoretically, for lack of better terms, you have like a day manager and an evening manager, like people that can oversee either the or maybe it's like a kitchen manager and a
Yeah.
front end manager, but then having a manager that overrides them that
Yeah.
does the book work.
It's key. I think you could.
It sounds like you have divisions, much like you do in your company now. You have a marketing division, whether or not they're employees of yours or a third party
Yep.
that's doing that function.
Right.
You have another set of worker bees that are out there
Right.
serving the guests and greeting them and cooking behind the scenes and washing dishes. And then you have somebody else
Yep.
that is a higher level that says, I'm going to orchestrate all this stuff.
Yeah.
Sounds efficient. It sounds productive. I don't know that I would want to personally. I do miss the restaurants. I do miss the interaction, talking to people. Remember, I mean, we used to have a good time. And that's one thing I
fun.
remember as kids. We were 15, 16 years old. We had processes in place to make sure that we were successful, and we had a great time doing it. That culture as a team made it even more successful, and it was fun to show up to work.
Yeah.
Right. And we have that there. I would say, so we're by no means a restaurant, but we do the exact same thing a restaurant does, but we pack it all up first, take it to a strange place that you've never been to, maybe unload it all,
Seems so
then
much more
do it.
difficult.
then do it,
Yeah.
then run a restaurant, then pack it all up, bring it back, clean it all, and reset.
Yeah.
So
And then reproduce that.
It's like a fancy circus.
It is. And especially when you were in the tent rental business too.
Oh my goodness.
Add that to.
Yep.
So Joe used to have tents, tables, chairs, all that jazz.
Yeah. Lighting and dance floors and all the stuff. And it's one thing we've done over the years is kind of narrowed our focus.
Yeah, which is wise, man.
Yeah. I had a restaurant. We ran food service and a restaurant basically at Gunlock that at the time there was 700-800 people there in the cafeteria there and the vending, the rental business. And we've kind of peeled that stuff off and said, let's get the best we can be at weddings and catering. And that's what we've done. So you hire a restaurant to cater, you're getting a completely different product, but the sub tray is still showing up and the food's still there and it still tastes good, but capability, and so we've just narrowed it right down to doing this as good as anybody can.
Dave, I know on the break you had a question that I thought was great to kind of segue Joe into. Why don't you dive into that?
Yeah, Joe. So when you have for people at home to try to help them, you're the expert. We come to you for these questions. If someone is looking for like a caterer, a venue, what things should they be looking for, and what questions should they be pondering, like when they're making these decisions?
Yeah, of course, budget is always a thing. Communicating what's most important to you in your event day, regardless of what it is, birthday party or a corporate lunch, and making sure you're going to get that out of your caterer. again, I always feel like having good food is almost not even in the mix. Like if you don't have that, um,
Close your doors.
Yeah,
Close your doors.
close your doors.
It's
So
expected.
it's expected, right? And a certain level of service. And so, but if the experience that you get from start to finish, and you want it to be easy or it to be memorable for your guests is different. If having the trendiest food is really important to you, I think you need to make sure that the catering company or whoever it is that you're involved with is going to be able to produce that. We may not be the most sophisticated food, but if the experience from start to finish and responsiveness from our team and trust that we're going to show up, um, we're not going to be short staffed. We have backup staff. And if the vehicle breaks down, the next one's going to show up. And so if you want that reassurance, um, ask those questions to make sure you're getting out of your your catering and your caterer what it is that's important to you. Because we have a funny story. We had a client come in. They were actually Simmons was the last name, but he got married here in Rochester. They were both pilots, but he was a radio personality and got started, I think, with like 106.7, or it was one of those big
Mhm.
channels. And they moved down to DC, trendy couple. And we thought like we had to impress these guys. They come up from DC and were going to have their wedding in at the aircraft hangar in Geneseo.
Mhm.
Really cool place. And we said we got to come up with some cool menu stuff. And these guys came in and they said, well, we were actually going to go with this barbecue caterer in town. And we're like, $15 a person for their whole dinner menu. And they had probably a $40,000 budget for their wedding. And this was, I would say, almost 10 years ago now. Um, the line items on the invoice, the smallest thing was the food. It wasn't important to them. We actually did a really cool themed event. And the food went in these like to go containers, like, and we had stewardesses dressed up in flight attendant
Oh,
costumes.
that is awesome.
That's so cool.
Love it.
We made, we did a lot with the design stuff, and we still do that now. We made a dozen 10-foot long paper airplanes and hung them from the ceiling with lighting. And it was all about the food was the lowest there. And so we went in with this expectation thinking these guys have money and and we have this big budget and we're coming up, and these kind of maybe big city guys that had nothing to do with that. So maybe just a testament to making sure that the people you're hiring are going to be able to deliver on what's important for you for the day. And if some of that reassurance and confidence that there's going to be no problems, and if there is, you may not even notice them that day, then call us. If it's just hot food showing up in the cheapest price and budget, and you're okay if it shows up a little bit late, you can probably call just about anyone out there because the food should be good and you hope they show up. But
Yeah.
so if service and taking care of your guests is important, just ask about those type of things. Say, do you have backup staff? How can I know that you're going to show up? And I was always very reluctant to tell people how much volume we did. We do a lot of events. We do probably 300 weddings a year in 6 months and peak season. But we have the resources. We have dedicated HR. We invest in this culture. We have backup vehicles. We have all the things that are, if there's a problem, we learned the hard way and fixed that and came up with something that will take care of that. And things always come up. But um, we've, we had a vehicle get lost. I felt like I told
Wait,
you
you
this
had a
story.
vehicle get lost?
Older gentleman driving, nicest guy. This was 5-6 years ago, probably. Couldn't find him. He did. He didn't have cell service, and he had a flip phone or something like that.
Uh-oh.
And it was food for 150 people that was about to be served in an hour. Couldn't find this guy.
Come on.
What'd you do?
Found him.
We found some food real quick. It was crazy because someone from my team called me and said, here's what's going on. I was in the building. And in 15 minutes, I was about to where the guy already was, and we had food for 150 people that would have been on time for that event out of the blue. And it was because we had the resources and more food in the building and the ability to just make this happen. And so if that van never showed up, those people probably would not have known, maybe with the slight menu variation that still would have been good.
Yeah.
They would have had their food on time. And so you're going to get that from the next guy. You know how to ask that question, but
Yeah.
How do you convey that to people?
right.
You know?
That's the hard part. Like that's
The lost,
can
the
count on
lost,
me.
the lost truck story.
the
Yeah.
lost.
Did,
truck
so did he
story.
make it? Just curious.
So I drove in and I it was down in Hemlock,
Uh-huh.
Livonia area, and I were kind of driving around the back roads like, where could this guy be? Did he run out of gas? Like, what the hell happened? I pull into the gas station. I'm like, have you seen a guy? Was he lost or something in a white van with, you know, our logo? And he's like, no, I haven't seen him. And I'm like, all right, I'm out, like back in the car. Just and the clerk says to me, well, if I see him, what do you want me to tell him? And I said, he's fired. He better look for a new job or something like that. Like if and as I'm walking out the door, I see him pulling like by, and I flag him down, and we cut a little bit closer, but I almost think we already had another vehicle en route with food to that event. But I ended up finding him. We got him there.
Oh my
put the food out.
goodness.
Nobody knew anything.
Yeah.
So kind of a crazy story.
Yeah,
Wow.
that is. That
Yep.
is.
Part of
Wow.
that whole thing, though, and I hate to use this tagline, but understanding what's important and knowing your client.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
I mean,
Mhm.
when you talk about
Yep.
it's not the cookie cutter type of theme that you're pitching or forcing down someone's throat. I can't stand that when you meet somebody or a business and you're considering something and they talk about all the things that are not important to you at all.
Right.
Everyone
like, why are
gets
you sharing
everyone
this?
gets this. Like,
Yeah. You try to ask the question, like, what do you fear most about your wedding day, or what's most important, or what's going to make it memorable?
Well, besides the bride or bridezilla,
Yeah.
there'd be a lot of things to worry about.
Right. Right. Yeah. So you try to understand that and make sure you deliver on that.
Like the-
The menu for the gentleman at the aircraft hangar, the menu wasn't important. They wanted good food, and you got to have
Yep.
good food, but they wanted this completely different experience that we had to kind of was like, okay, back to the drawing board. And it wasn't,
Yeah.
at that point, it was kind of the realization that not everyone just wants really good food in a catering company, food centric idea. So
Well,
he does.
I remember the real quick. I remember the event you did for Monarch where it was
Oh, that was
the
awesome.
poker night or the
Yeah.
gambling night or whatever you want to
Casino
call it.
night.
Casino night. Thank you.
Yep.
And I forgot exactly how it looked, but we had the little bar thing, but it was
Theme.
like a beach theme, yeah, because it was right on
Tiki
Lake
bar.
Ontario. That's right. It was a tiki
I
bar.
remember it.
And it just it fit right. And you're right, Joe. If I had to really peel the onion back, like, could we probably hire most catering companies for good, decent food and good, decent drinks? Yeah. But you brought so much more to the table with that, and it made the whole event memorable. And the
To be honest, I don't even remember the exact food items we had,
no,
but I can remember people having fun, smiling, laughing,
Yes.
telling me how great everything was.
Yep.
And like you said, when we got there was like a tent, not a tent, but a shelving setup that
Oh,
was
yeah.
tiered with
Yep.
drinks to grab and go, with umbrellas and
Mhm.
fancy.
Mhm.
People remember that. The smiles, the experience. That's what people remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Quite the
Some cool stuff.
quite the ride. As we conclude here, Joe, just an announcement. I know that you recently purchased the venue.
Yes.
Tell us
Yes.
just a quick 30-second. I'd hate to say elevator speech, but
Yeah. No. Yeah. Got into using this. We purchased what was an existing venue that I think was ready for some love and in a new face, the Avon Century Barn, just up the road from Partyman, in Avon, West Henrietta Road. We're going through the new website and everything. A name change will happen, but we have a venue that I would say was one of the more iconic barn wedding venues in Livingston County and even the Rochester area. Taking that over, using that as a kind of a platform for us to create some amazing experiences for people and do something a little bit different. So I think it's going to be great for us, and that's something we're kind of getting into now.
Wow. So did you guys have a venue before?
No venue before.
So this is your first.
Yeah, first one. We worked with a lot of other great venues in the Rochester area. I mean, 30 or 40 or 50 different venues we've catered at over the years, and a lot of them pretty constant, some really, really great ones. But our hope is that this kind of provide some opportunity for staff, training, having our own facility, and just being able to do things a little bit different. So I'm super excited about it.
Congrats. Yeah, I can see it. You're smiling. I don't know if people are listening or watching, but congrats. It's a big deal, man.
And Joseph, if somebody wants to hire you or talk to you guys about pricing, venues, events, how do they get a hold of you guys?
Yeah. Website, partymancatering.com. Phone number on there, 438-4321. Nice, easy number. But you can go to our website, send us an email through there. We have 3 full-time event planners that will pick up the phone and get back to you. We try to turn things around real quick. So if you reach out to us, someone's waiting there to talk to you about your exciting day, what we can do for you.
Man.
That sounds
That's
great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations. I'll close with saying congratulations on all of your successes, man. Could not happen to better people, in my opinion. Const, anything else?
No, I seriously, this was cool to see you on the show as business party man.
Yeah.
The guy.
It was
all
fun.
grown up.
Yeah. If you were a mullet, this is the front half. All business.
I won't turn around.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you guys. And I have to even just a shout out to you guys, because Dave, you've been along for the ride with me and really helped our business, kind of invest into those things that are important. And
sure.
You've seen each other grow. You've done a lot for us as well to get me to this place. So
thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for listening to the Pennywise Financial Podcast. Constantine here, Monarch Wealth Management, signing off. Thanks again, Joe.
You've been listening to Pennywise Financial, brought to you by Monarch Wealth Management. Constantine and David really care about their clients. They want to make sure you're happy, so you'll continue to hire them. There's no commitments, and clients are free to leave whenever they want. Think about being able to pick up the phone and call someone for guidance and advice on almost anything, from buying a car, selling a home, buying vacation properties, or even selling a business. Reach out on the website at monarchwealthmanagement.com. There are 2 offices in Rochester and 2 offices in Buffalo. Reach out to us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube, or call us toll-free at 800-480-1580. That's 800-480-1580. Until next time, this is Pennywise Financial, signing off.
The opinions voiced in this program are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities are offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA, and SIPC.